I call Shane Ritty, 5-minute call.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It's a pleasure to speak to this budget tonight, a sound, solid, fiscally responsible budget. And, Mr Speaker, I want to focus on three particular components: education, health research and smoking. In the education space, Mr Speaker, this budget strongly supports our overall investment in education. $14.4 million for more apprentices, $9.6 million for Māori and Pacifica trades training, and an extra $1.4 billion in education. That's 9 new schools and 480 new classrooms. Now, Whangarei Girls High School are a beneficiary of some of these 480 new classrooms, and we saw the commitment last week when Minister Nikki Kay visited Whangarei Girls High School to announce the 10 new buildings. Their principal, Anne Cooper, told me today that Whangarei Girls High has a burgeoning role, currently sitting at 1,350 students, and these buildings are absolutely essential to them. It's a role that's growing because the school is doing well. They've got a solid reputation, new people to the region, students are staying longer, and there's an increasing awareness amongst students of education as the tool to advance and improve their outlook. Mr Speaker, a solid fiscal program like this allows for these 10 new school buildings. They're actually going to be used for arts, commerce and student support. All of this is under the umbrella of a new model learning environment. Mr Speaker, the school's motto is Fidelita, which means faithfully, and just as this school has faith in its students, so this government has faith in the school. Speaker, I want to turn to health research funding. Health research funding is also a beneficiary of this budget, an increase of $97 million over the next 4 years. The annual amount available for health research through the Health Research Council increases from $77 million to $120 million. Now, the HRC boxes above its weight, and one of the HRC success stories for me is the Liggins-Howie story. In 1972, they published an article called "A Controlled Trial of Antepartum Glucocorticoid Treatment for Prevention of Respiratory Distress Syndrome in Premature Infants." Now, any woman anywhere in the world today with a preterm infant can thank the HRC and these two doctors for the likelihood that their baby will survive. You see, what Liggins and Howie found was that the lungs of premature infants don't expand. Yeah, they've got surfactant and they just can't take air in. And what they found was that if you give steroids to premature infants and give them at least 24, 48 hours, that those steroids mature the lungs and the babies are able to inflate. So where before preterms might have died at 32, 33, 34 weeks, with this new knowledge funded by HRC and with their own expertise, New Zealand was able to lead the way, and it's now a standard protocol across the world. A really seminal finding, and we think that it may have saved 10,000 premature New Zealand babies. Health Research Council in cooperation with an academic university. Mr Speaker, the last thing I want to talk to is smoking and the tobacco increase. And I want to focus on one particular area that interests me, and that's around youth smoking. We know that in New Zealand the average youth starts smoking at 14.6 years of age. And what interests me is that cigarette smoking and marijuana use and alcohol have what's called co-occurrence. The two tend to go together. So it interests me that if we increase the taxes on tobacco, what does that do on marijuana use and maybe alcohol use? Well, international studies across the world have shown several things. First of all, that if you increase tobacco taxes, you decrease tobacco consumption. We know that, that's why we're doing it. What it also does is it decreases the number of youth smoking marijuana, and it also decreases the amount of marijuana consumed. Let's apply that same thinking to alcohol, which also has co-occurrence with tobacco. What we find is if we increase tobacco taxes, we decrease tobacco consumption. Again, that's our principle, but it also decreases alcohol consumption. Imagine then if the tobacco measures in this budget, in some maybe small and indirect way, could also reduce alcohol and drug-related harms such as drink driving and domestic violence. Mr Speaker, I've focused on these three small areas on a very wide-ranging budget with a lot of breadth, and I've made the case for many other benefits that accrue beyond the immediate visibility of this budget. It's a solid budget, it's a sound budget, and I commend this budget to the House.
A 5-minute call.